Yes, good morning, good afternoon, Dennis, and also Kilala Bayani. Very impressive presentation we just heard. I was also regularly in the Philippines, and two of my three staff in Geneva are from the Philippines, so it's dear to my heart. But let's move to my topic. Yes, my topic is Globalance in International Finance Ethics, and I'd like to share my screen. Just a second. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I published a book a month ago called Globalance, where I worked since a number of years on the question of how can we balance the world which is so much under tension and balance it in a way which is countering also all the extremisms, because we are in a dangerous imbalance today. And I'd like to start with this cover design, which was a cooperation between myself and the Chinese graphist and artist, which shows that we are in a world where we are interdependent. Whenever one moves, the others are also affected. So we cannot be in isolation, but all what we do has an impact on others, and all what others are doing has an impact on us. And that's a positive thing, and this is life. Life is interdependence, but how much interdependence should we have, can we have, should we not have, by protecting us with nationalism or protectionism or other isms? And that leads me to the next slide. The problem today is that we are in a very polarized world of so-called isms. My definition of isms is isms are ideologies with absolutized one value above all others. And you have a whole list of over 20 isms, from terrorism to extremism, fundamentalism, cyberism, but also things which we may see as positive, like globalization becomes an ism when it's becoming absolute. If you say international connections is everything and nations lost their raison d'etre, then it becomes an ism, a globalism, as it was in the 1990s after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Then the globalists, so to say, were triumphalists and said, we wonder and we will do the work until 2008 with a financial crisis, when the nation state had to jump in and come back. So that's the challenge. And if I look at the three very simplified main world views or lenses, like glasses, my power first. I think that's what we see in geopolitics right now. The US-China conflict is very serious, but it's not the only one. We have other autocrats in the world who would say, my power first is my issue. The other one is the economic one, my money first. I don't care about balancing. We have seen a 25% increase of the wealth of the billionaires worldwide in the last 6 months. So there are losers and there are winners. And my money first is this second view. And the third view is the ethics one in our circle of ecumenical and also interfaith ethics and philosophical ethics. Our common values first, and that is the core of globalance, a global balance of values. We have different ways of dealing with opposites. We have opposites of values. I come back to that in a minute. We can try, and that's what is in the power game going on, destruction. one part tries to destroy the other in order to dominate with an absolute power. Absolutism, autocracy means I don't accept other players. I want to be on top and on top alone. Now the other, I don't go through the 5. The other one would be the core message of my concept of Globalance. The opposites are in a constant relation and interaction of dynamic balancing, and thus creating and procreating life as an ongoing evolutionary process. So that is what you have seen in the picture of balance. It's a dynamic concept. The balance is not a boring stability, but it's life, it's ongoing life, it's time which moves, and we have to constantly find the balance. And now what is the balance? If I look at it with the eyes of ethics, and I'm a professor of ethics, so that's my speciality. If we look with a lens of ethics to the world, first of all, I look at it as a tree of values and virtues. Values are not isolated stars somewhere in the universe, and even the stars are interconnected, as we know. They are not just free-floating entities, but I compare it with a tree: responsibility, freedom, justice, and so on. I normally have between 10 and 12 core values, which I also show that they are quite universal in the different world religions, in the different philosophical traditions. But they build one tree. So each value is, so to say, a branch on a tree. And a tree dies if you just take one branch and you cut all the other branches, as you may know. Virtue is the same thing. Now, my whole message here in the concept of Globalance is relational. Relational values. That is like the tree, but now I show the relation. So every value is linked to the other values. It's a relational system, a systemic approach. And I put love in the center. You know, St. Augustine in the 5th century said the sentence, love and then do what you want. That means it's not a freedom to do whatever, but as long as you act from the center of love, you will find the right balance. And then you will be able to balance the different things. So the same with the virtues, they are all interconnected. And as I have only a short time, I would like to go now into a few examples related to my topic, Globalance in an international finance ethics. But let me add one word to this center. The dancers, and also when we see the Philippine dancers, the Indonesian dancers, the Chinese dancers, the European dancers, we see that dancing means always to balance your body. And if you dance very strongly, you need a strong center. So your belly is the center which remains stable, and then you are free to with your legs and your hands to do what you want, as long as this center is stable. And that is, I think, the also profound message of the Bible: love and then do what you want, or the reciprocity, love the other, love God and the other as yourself. That is a balanced, very balanced message. Now, when we look at the opposites, what we see is we have a value 1, that's just a theoretical concept. We have a value 1, and if you maximize, like in the isms, value 1, you have no value 2 present. Or you do the opposite, you maximize value 2, and this is also imbalanced. And the optimum would now be to put in relation the 2 values. And I will show you now what it means. Opposites as the 2 sides of the same coin. So the whole concept of value is, or Globalance is not an or, either or, but and. That's the core. I don't go through all that. It is inclusive, not exclusive. It's values driven, not values denying. It's self-critical and not autocratic. And that's maybe the key point. If you want to be balanced, you need to be constantly also correcting, not only criticizing the other, but correcting yourself in order to reposition yourself and your government, your state, your ideology or religion. Now, I don't go through history because in history we have manifold examples in Buddhism, in ancient Egypt, in the Taoism, in Christianity, Judaism, like the double commandment of love, as I just mentioned, the golden rule, the African Ubuntu system, and also in today's world, like Al Gore's concept of Earth in the Balance, he published about 20 years ago, Confucius' Harmonious Society, and so on. And also the UN SDGs are, of course, a key concept. If you look at these 17 goals, they are meant to be interconnected. So I put them in the circle. We could also say these 17 values of the 17 goals are interconnected, as it is my concept of Globalance. So Globalance and SDGs are sisters, or twins, if you want. Now, I applied in that 600 pages book this to all the different levels: economics, culture, environment, politics, generation, urbanization, and so on. Because exactly for that same reason, we cannot look at the international finance ethics without looking at environment, without looking at all the other parts, at gender and so on. As we have seen in the presentation also of Franz Gassner, modern finance ethics is holistic. So let us look at the first example, and I just have 3 examples. The post-dollar global financial architecture. I take 2 of the values. You see security and freedom as 2 and just one of the manifold lines of connection. I just take this as an example. Freedom, if we have free unregulated financial markets, that's one extreme. The other one would be planned economy, forced equality. The financial markets are all state controlled to the extreme. Now, how to find a financial market which has freedom of action, but with international standards and controls? So this balance is at the core, in my view, of the whole international discussion of regulating the financial markets. And that leads me now to the dollar issue. In 2020, 90% of global financial transactions use the US dollar. Imagine, the US dollar is the absolute king in terms of currency, compared to 60% before the financial crisis of 2008. So the dollar is not losing, the dollar is even more dominant than ever in history. The US Fed controls the US dollar, and I quote Ruchir Sharma, chief strategist of Morgan Stanley, who said, more than ever, the US Fed is more than ever the world's central bank. So we have a world central bank, but it's owned by one country, United States of America. So what does it mean for multilateralism? It is a very big problem, and it's not enough in the public because we all depend on the dollar. We all have to accept it, but we need a new global financial architecture which makes the correction. And there are some proposals on the table, a multilateral basket of currencies, as we had at the beginning of the 20th century or end of 19th century, where the US pound, the French franc, and the German mark built a kind of a currency basket. And we should have a global currency basket as Stiglitz proposed it. And or why not having then the BIT, the Bank of International exchange in Basel, which is already the Bank of National Banks, as a kind of currency global bank. But it's not acceptable that one country in de facto plays the world central bank role. And we see that this is a huge issue. That means that the US, with all political turbulences and maybe weaknesses on the capital market, the US is absolute king and can dictate, I exaggerate of course and simplify, can dictate the rules to the world. Let me look at the second example, and again with this question of freedom and security. The balanced debt policies. Debts become again like in...
Christoph, you've got 2 minutes.
Okay.
We're at
Thank you.
already.
I'm almost closed, yes. The balanced debt policies, you remember I was part of this debt crisis in the 80s when we tried to find a solution. So balanced debt policies is needed in order to have a global financial system which is balanced, and that's more urgent than ever during COVID indebtedness. And the third is fintech for impact investing. Fintech as internet-related technologies and financial transactions. I think there again is a big issue because fintech takes over more and more, becomes very relevant. So we have to look from an ethical, business ethics, economic ethics point of view to that. And I don't read this, you can read it in the book. I summarized this in an egg. The egg is a symbol of life. And I still have a dream, as Martin Luther King said, I have a dream, I still have a dream that Globalance is possible. Thank you so much.